Right, so today I have 3 articles for you. 2 are good news articles, and 1 is, of course, bad news. So let's start with the good news. The first good news article is this Republican governor vetoed anti-LGBTQ plus book ban and bathroom bills, which is awesome that for those people who seem to be convinced, because I usually criticize MAGA, that somehow means I hate all Republicans because there's only one way to be a Republican, apparently. This is proof that it's not true. I realize that there are sensible Republicans out there. It's just getting fewer and fewer. Anyway, moving on. The New Hampshire Republican Governor Kelly Ayotte has gone against her party and vetoed 2 anti-LGBTQ plus bills and 3 other far-right ones. Ayotte vetoed the bills Tuesday while signing 101 others into law. House Bill 324 would have barred schools from distributing books and other materials deemed harmful to minors. It was aimed primarily at sexual content and likely would have been used against books with LGBTQ plus characters and themes. It also would have required school districts to strengthen the process through which parents could challenge these materials. Current state law appears to provide a mechanism for parents through their local school district to exercise their rights to ensure their children are not exposed to inappropriate materials, Ayotte said in her veto message. Under this law, parents must be notified at least 2 weeks in advance of course materials that involve human sexuality, sexual education, sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression, she noted. If a parent objects in writing, New Hampshire law further requires an alternative agreed upon between the school district and the parent. Therefore, I do not believe the state of New Hampshire needs to, nor should it, engage in the role of addressing questions of literary value and appropriateness, particularly where the system created by House Bill 324 calls for monetary penalties based on subjective standards, Ayotte added. Parents who were dissatisfied could have filed lawsuits. So, basically, let's not pass this bill because A, we already have a law that fulfills the need that this bill would have filled. We already have a law, and also it's very murky. 2 very good reasons to veto. Of course, it doesn't say whether the New Hampshire legislature has a veto-proof majority. Maybe it'll get there somewhere in the article. House Bill 148 would have led businesses and correctional facilities to classify and segregate people by sex assigned at birth rather than gender identity, affecting restroom and locker room use. State law bans discrimination based on gender identity, but under the bill, these classifications would not have been considered a violation of the law. Alrighty then. I believe there are important and legitimate privacy and safety concerns raised by biological males using places such as female locker rooms and being placed in female correctional facilities, Ayotte wrote. At the same time, I see that House Bill 148 is overly broad and impractical to enforce, potentially creating an exclusionary environment for some of our citizens. It could have led to lawsuits as well, she said. Her immediate predecessor as governor, fellow Republican Chris Sununu, had vetoed a similar bill. So again, it's a murky, slippery slope situation. So, additionally, AOT vetoed House Bill 358, which would make it easier for parents to apply for religious exemptions to child vaccine requirements in school. House Bill 446, which would require schools to get explicit parental permission before giving students non-academic surveys, and House Bill 667, which would require sex education courses to include a high-quality computer-generated animation or ultrasound video that shows the development of the heart, brain, and other vital organs in early fetal development, the New Hampshire Bulletin reports. She also vetoed 2 budget-related bills. Okay, before I continue, I totally agree about the religious exemptions. Now, obviously, if you're allergic to the ingredients in a vaccine, 100% agree that you shouldn't be forced to take the vaccine. I mean, that just makes sense. But religious exemptions, I'm sorry, this is a public health issue. I'm sorry if your religion says that vaccines are bad, but religion has already accepted in many cases that science is better than religion. Ask your church if they have a lightning rod. If they do, they've already accepted that science knows more than religion. So, yeah, there is that. Let's see. Schools getting explicit parent permission before giving students non-academic surveys. Why? I mean, what surveys prompted this to even be put forth? I mean, I remember in school getting, should we ban smoking type surveys? Or, students against drunk driving and sign a petition. That sort of thing. What freaking type of surveys are being passed around that gave people the idea that parents should know about these surveys? I would love to know what prompted that. Let's see. Obviously, the requirement that sex education courses include AI or ultrasound videos of the development of a fetus, that is obviously an anti-abortion crap. This idea that if they show these, nobody will want to get an abortion or something. Even though people don't get an abortion for shits and giggles. So, even if you show them that, all you're going to do is make sure that the person who ends up having to have an abortion is more tortured about the fact that they have to have an abortion, not that it'll prevent them. Because this isn't a case of people just skipping to the abortion clinic with no care in the world. I mean, I'm sure there are some women who do an oops, I'm pregnant and have no problem going and have no guilt behind it. I'm sure there are some women who do that. I'm not going to say there's absolutely no woman who does that. I'm pretty sure there are some. Because it's a big world, I'm sure that there is someone who fits that stereotype mold that anti-abortionists have. But most women, when they get pregnant, even if it's early on and for whatever reason they decide to have an abortion, it's not still a simple matter of, oh, well, I guess I have to have an abortion and no care in the world. That generally doesn't happen. Even if it's early on and it's just a clump of cells, it's still a medical procedure. It's not something to be taken lightly. Let's see. It would take a 2/3 majority in both the State House and Senate to override Ayoade's vetoes. Republicans do not have a veto-proof majority in the House. Oh, good. Good to know. House Democratic leader Alexis Simpson issued a statement Tuesday praising the vetoes without mentioning Ayoade. We're grateful that today New Hampshire chose to protect the rights and dignity of our transgender neighbors. And House Democrats will keep fighting until every granted stater can live freely, openly, and safely no matter who they are, Simpson said according to the bulletin. Ayoade was not always an LGBTQ plus ally, having once opposed marriage equality and adoption by same-sex couples. But Ayoade's vetoes are a rejection of her party's attempt to assert cultural control throughout the state and the country, the New Republic notes. I don't know if this is about her changing and becoming an ally or just realizing that maybe just because I don't like something doesn't mean that they shouldn't exist. I don't know. Or maybe something happened to change her mind and make her realize that maybe we shouldn't try to legislate these people out of existence, even though that won't happen, but still. Even thinking that it's a good idea. So, that is the end of that article. So, let's get into good news number 2. Now, this one is potentially that this could down the road turn into potential bad news, but for now, good news. Trump admin forced to restore $6.2 million to LGBTQ plus and HIV groups. The federal government has been forced to restore $6.2 million in funding to LGBTQ plus and HIV organizations. The move comes after a court victory for 9 organizations represented by Lambda Legal. They are the San Francisco AIDS Foundation, Los Angeles LGBT Center, GLBT Historical Society, San Francisco Community Health Center, Prisma Community Care in Arizona, NYC LGBT Community Center, Bradbury Sullivan Community Center in Pennsylvania, Baltimore Safe Haven, and Forge in Wisconsin. They filed suit against the Trump administration in February in U.S. District Court for the Northern District of California, and their case was heard in May. Judge John S. Tiger ruled June 9th that the groups were likely to succeed in showing that multiple provisions of 2 of Donald Trump's executive orders against diversity, equity, and inclusion programs and an anti-transgender executive order are unconstitutional. Under the orders, the groups would have been denied funds for any equity-related grants or contracts and programs that promote what the administration calls gender ideology. Tiger therefore issued a preliminary injunction blocking the enforcement of these provisions while the lawsuit proceeds. And that's why I said this is a temporary good news. It could turn into bad news because this isn't the last word. While the administration has been known to disobey court orders, Lambda Legal announced Tuesday that in light of Tiger's ruling, the funds have been restored. We have confirmed that our plaintiffs, LGBTQ plus organizations providing critical services to their communities, have seen their threatened funding restored. Jose Abrigo, senior attorney and HIV project director at Lambda Legal, said in a press release, "When we fight, we win. We know the battle is far from over and there will be setbacks along the way, but the case is too important and the need too great for us to lose heart." If implemented, If implemented, the Trump orders would severely harm nonprofit organizations' ability to provide HIV treatment and prevention, sexual and reproductive health screenings and services, youth programs, homelessness prevention, mental health, employment, and many other services. In granting the injunction, the court held that Lambda Legal's plaintiffs and the transgender people they serve will likely succeed in demonstrating that the executive orders violate their rights to equal protection, free speech, and due process, and that the orders likely violate the separation of powers. As if this Supreme Court is going to care about that. So, worried that they'll take the money away, but we'll see. These three funding provisions reflect an effort to censor constitutionally protected speech and services promoting DEI and recognizing the existence of transgender individuals, Tiger wrote. These provisions seek to strip funding from programs that serve historically disenfranchised populations in direct contravention of several statutes under which plaintiffs receive funding. Plaintiffs have therefore demonstrated a likelihood of success on the merits that these provisions violate their rights under the First Amendment, Fifth Amendment, and the separation of powers. While the executive requires some degree of freedom to implement its political agenda, it is still bound by the Constitution, Tiger continued. I'm sure the Trump administration will disagree. And even in the context of federal subsidies, it cannot weaponize congressionally appropriated funds to single out protected communities for disfavored treatment or suppress ideas that it does not like or has deemed dangerous. It further cannot do so in such a vague manner that all federal grantees and contractors are left to wonder what activities or expression they can engage in without risking the funding on which they depend. Now, it was already ruled that Congress can, that the Trump administration, and actually I think Congress allowed it for the Trump administration to rescind the funding that they had already appropriated. So, yeah, I'm sure they'll find a way to take the money away at some point. Not to mention, for people who seem to claim that, this is just mental health issues, blah, 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 they took away a suicide hotline for the LGBT community. They took away federal funding. The Trevor Project's going to continue the suicide hotline, but still, how can you say you care about mental health if you take away resources that help with mental health? Absent injunctive relief, plaintiffs face the imminent loss of federal funding critical to their ability to provide life-saving health care and support services to marginalized LGBTQ populations. This loss not only threatens the survival of critical programs, but also forces plaintiffs to choose between their constitutional rights and their continued existence. So that is the end of that article. So like I said, the lawsuit is proceeding. I'm sure it'll end up in front of the Supreme Court. And considering there's quite a few conservative judges there who want to overturn Obergefell, I have no problem believing that they would take this money away again. They'll find some reason to decide that they aren't, that they don't have any right to the money. Okay, so final article, which is the bad news article. Let me just refresh to see if there's an update. Nope. All right. So, Puerto Rico's governor just signed one of the harshest gender-affirming care laws yet. So, that's great. Puerto Rico's Republican Governor Jennifer Gonzalez Colon signed into law Wednesday a far-reaching ban on gender-affirming medical care for transgender people under 21, enacting one of the harshest measures of its kind in the United States and its territories, and prompting swift condemnation from medical experts and LGBTQ plus advocates. Okay, before I continue, two things. Number one, you cannot say that this is about protecting children if you're enacting laws for people over the age of 18. Because either 18-year-olds are adults or they're not. And I actually feel this way about the drinking law being 21 too. Pick one. Either you are concerned about children, or or she's just saying the quiet power out loud that they just want trans people to go away. That's number one. And for those who are, racist, Puerto Rico is, like this paragraph mentioned, is a territory of the United States, and hence Puerto Ricans are American citizens. So, even AOC pointed out how Republicans really hate that Puerto Ricans are American citizens because they want to deport her so bad, which I find hilarious and sad at the same time. Okay, moving on. The law received the governor's approval late in the day, according to the Associated Press. The law, Senate Bill 350, prohibits the use of puberty blockers, hormone therapy, and gender-affirming surgeries for anyone under 21, threatening doctors and other health professionals with up to 15 years in prison, a $50,000 fine, and the permanent loss of their license and permits. Public funds are also barred from being used for such care. So, again, is this just geared for children? No, because under 21, you're not just a child. 18, 19, 20, and 21-year-olds are technically adults. Now, I've mentioned before puberty blockers. Granted, it doesn't happen often, but there are children who go through precocious puberty, meaning they go through puberty way too freaking early. Hence, puberty blockers. However, nobody gave a rat's ass about that until trans people started using puberty blockers. And then everyone started clutching their pearls that puberty blockers exist. It's been around. It's not like this just started happening. Hormone therapy. Most kids are not on hormones. Like I said, it depends on the gender dysphoria. Some of them need the hormones while they're still in school. Others do not. You cannot freaking tell an 18-year-old. This is an adult. So you can no longer say that this is about protecting children. because 18-year-olds are adults, 21-year-olds are adults. They should be allowed to get the care that they need. No longer should the state tell them what health care is appropriate for them. But then again, women are having this problem with their own health care, because people seem to think that because abortion is icky, that somehow they can tell women what to do with their bodies. So yeah, there's precedence to this, but it's still, yeah. Don't tell me that your only concern is children if this is the case. Gender-affirming surgeries, again, that doesn't happen usually until you're at least 18. Simply because most children are not, their gender dysphoria isn't so bad that they can't wait till they're adults. Plus, these things are expensive. So, not everybody gets them anyway, because, well, they can't always afford it. And of course, it's the health professionals that are getting threatened because, trans people won't exist if there's nobody to give them the proper care or something. No, trans people will still exist. They'll just be absolutely miserable and might not live very long. So if you want an epidemic of suicides, you're on the right track. In recent days, the College of Physicians and Surgeons, the Association of Psychology, the College of Social Work Professionals, and the Puerto Rican Association of Professional Counseling, and the Bar Association, among other organizations, had urged that the bill be vetoed. And there you have it. And I've been saying this in every one of my videos on trans people and abortion. Let the doctors doctor. You are not medical professionals. We are not going to go to you to ask your opinion about a burst appendix because you don't know squat. I mean, there might be some individual members of the legislature who are medical professionals and can actually say squat. However, for the most part, you are a legislative body, not a medical one. So you do not know shit about what is medically necessary for the population. So you should keep your damn nose out of their business. In other words, stay in your fucking lane. The Advocate previously reported that Gonzalez Colon had asked for amendments to protect access to puberty blockers and allow minors already undergoing treatment to continue care, but lawmakers did not adopt those changes. Last month, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in Scrimetti that a Tennessee ban on gender-affirming care for minors could be enacted, which allowed other states and territories to continue to ban such care. Because, national injunctions only work when the Supreme Court does it. Anyway, now, why she wanted to grandfather in the people who are already accessing puberty blockers or undergoing treatment, but yet she signed this ban into law is a mystery. Because if these treatments are so bad, then you should ban everybody. No grandfathering in. So I don't understand why she did that. I mean, like I said, if either those treatments are bad or they're not. You can't just grandfather it in. Or she probably figures, well, the damage had been done, so why try to turn back the clock? I honestly do not know. That's the only thing I can think of. What a disgrace. Jennifer Gonzalez, through her action, declares herself the most anti-equality governor in history. She ignored her own Secretary of Health and the medical associations that support treatments for trans minors. By signing Senate Bill 350 into law, she has just endangered trans youth and their families and criminalized health professionals for doing their job. Pedro Julio Serrano, president of the Puerto Rican LGBTQ plus Federation, said in a statement to The Advocate. And again, why was she wanting to grandfather people in? That's the one thing I do not understand. GLAAD president and CEO Sarah Kate Ellis also criticized the new law. Everyone deserves to live free from discrimination and with access to essential health care supported by every major medical association, she said. Banning this care and stripping the rights of parents to make the best medical decisions for their families creates unbearable burdens for the most marginalized in Puerto Rico. And that's another thing. The same people who are screaming parents' rights are also the ones who are doing this shit. This idea that it's only parents' rights when they agree with us on what should be done, of how to treat your children. Otherwise, you don't have rights. That is just bizarre to me. Harvard law instructor Alejandra Caraballo reacted to the law's signing on Blue Sky. A 22-year-old trans person can go drink themselves to death, but can't legally get hormones. I'm sorry, 20-year-old. I can read. She wrote, noting that the drinking age in Puerto Rico is 18. Oh, okay. So why are we? That makes the ban at being at 21 even more bizarre. Because if it was in the mainland U.S., where drinking is also 21, okay, I can see where that came from. But if the drinking age is 18, what the hell? You're really screaming that you just want trans people to stop existing. The Federation, a coalition representing hundreds of individuals and more than 100 organizations, said it would pursue legal action against the new law. Alright, so that is the end of that article. So, yeah, if you're a trans person in Puerto Rico, now if you need to access life-saving care, you're going to have to find a state in the mainland U.S. that will help you, which is not cheap. So that's great. Anyway, I believe that is all I have for this video. And with that, I will see you guys in the next one.